Hello again. And we shall continue with the story of David's flight from Saul's persecution, just as Christians will have to be running one day from those who supposedly say they will love and protect and succor, so help them out, or help to save them and deliver them in this epic battle of the great controversy between good and evil. As we see contrasted against the battles of WW1 and WW2 and other revolutions of our time, we're in it too. War spill over from heaven into earth, and we have to make our part. We have to make our part and make a decision. So we're going to continue with 1 Samuel chapter 21, going further on where David flees to Nob. You know, he has to kind of pretend he's crazy to be actually introduced or brought into the camp of the Philistines, which were the enemies of Israel trying to kill them. Has to kind of pretend he's mad so they can actually let him stay and not kill him, while fleeing from the supposed Christian ones, the place where he should have been safe. He had to flee from his own country, his own nation, because the wicked king is trying to destroy faithful David. So you have to run hide to the enemy. Does this remind you when Jesus had to leave, when Mary and Joseph took Jesus, when Herod was trying to kill the babies, 2 years and younger, when they had to leave Nazareth and Bethlehem to go to right back to Egypt for a while until Herod was killed? I mean, it's like, wow. So he had to flee for a time until Saul, pursuing him, had to kind of get something done to him. So let's see why. So he flees to Nob, feigns madness. He's then brought into a place called Adullam. Saul then took vengeance out on those who were trying to help him and trying to safe harbor him. As many people, as you see, we're going to trace, kind of think it back to the Holocaust and other issues in World War I and II. Those who were given support and help, assisting the enemies of the state, were pretty much locked up, killed, robbed, beaten. I mean, bad things happened to them, as what happened also in the biblical times. So then again is now, and nothing's isolated, where it's like, no, that's just up to them. No, this is us. Are we going through the same thing again now? Harboring, aiding, and abetting, all these other things? They have new laws, new terms for all this stuff here, but still the same story. God is pursuing his people, trying to save his people, save mankind from mankind. The devil's trying to destroy us. And many people have made choices to stand for God amidst it all, even to be martyred. Others have decided to compromise and, for the sake of convenience, to sell their brothers and sisters out, and to snitch and to tell and to do things that are not godly, not Christ-like. If only we can do it God's way and stay so. But by God's mercies, as that's how he has peace and calm right now in this area, but there's conflict on the other side, God is holding back the winds of strife to give us a little time to get it together, a little time to keep the technology and connection, everything's still running. A little time, because this is running for now, but you never know when they're going to cut it, when something happens. Because remember, we're in a war. So they're going to start cutting the lines of communication soon. They're going to have many prominent speakers, many people who are what they call patriots or nationalists, speaking up against what's going on in the world. They're going against them. But look at this cat up here. So beautiful he is. Just watch him. We got to be like that sometimes. Take a look, being aware, watching him, praying, just watching him. Keep notice and say, got himself up there so stealthily, and just always watching. You can learn something from that. Looking for me, looking to see what he can do. Kind of settling and kind of watching it. Beautiful. Let's see what we can do. Our turn. Let's watch and pray too. Let's see. 1 Samuel chapter 21, going into 22. God bless you. Let's continue. Because we need to know how the story ends. How did David survive? What did he have to do? How he had to do this? Absolutely amazing.
1 Samuel 21. Then came David to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee. And I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days, since I came out. and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel.
I'm not even going to try to address those topics because there's some things that are so deep and so spiritual. Remember when God told him to come to the mountain to get a word message from God when they had to go flee to Egypt? He said, don't come at your wives and all that stuff. There's a lot of things involved in spiritual aspects, even intimacy things between husband and wives, and defiling and keeping yourself pure and holy for God. It's a lot of things, and we don't have the time to go into all the details today. But it's just that David is now in the sanctuary, now in a kind of sanctuary, he's hungry. Men are hungry and they need to eat something. And they said, but you can't. It's hollowed bread. Hollowed bread means it's set aside for holy use. They put the bread and everything in the sanctuary for God, for hallowed use. It's like a tribute. There's a heavenly sanctuary and there's an earthly sanctuary. And he's trying to think, you got to learn the stories. It's like, read the story from the beginning. But he's there and he's hungry and he tells them that he's on the king's business. Now, some of the stuff he's like, isn't he lying? He's lying. Didn't Michael, did she lie too? But how he lied to her father Saul in the previous one, part 6. It's like, sometimes you wonder, didn't God say you shouldn't bear false witness? Well, I think there's a time to do such, in the sense that if it's to save and protect lives, against an unfair or unrighteous edicts, I would say you do what God lays on your heart. In the sense that if someone says, save me, somebody's trying to kill me right now, and you hide them in a home, and someone comes, did you see somebody go there? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell a person I'm hiding somebody who's trying to save their lives. So you have to do what God God wants. Now, I don't put lying, being false, like, I saw someone take this, or being false witness against somebody. It's different. To save life is it's a different story here. Many things had to be done in a way that it's like, but I thought, how would this justify this, and how does it rectify with the 10 Commandments? We have to read it in totality. Read the whole Bible from beginning to end and see how does this story work together. Many lives are risked, and endangered by just trying to help other people to be saved and to help save them. And sometimes not everyone will understand the story. Sometimes to take time to go over the every detail, it may be forever, and it's losing time. You've been chased and pursued. How to do this and what, and while you've been spied upon, everything, and everyone's snitching, and there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm saying. I think a lot of these stories they're making, some of these movies, like even Tom Cruise movies, a lot of the movies they make here, I think they're based upon a lot of a biblical perspective, because the stories in the Bible are so intricate and so detailed, and so interesting. I would say if they want to get some good movies and good stuff to make, they gotta go from the Bible and see how is it, because you learn about the perspective of human nature and the psyche and all this stuff, and why they would do what they would do. Only God knows. So let's continue here. So David is fleeing, and he's hungry, and let's see if that priest help him.
So the priests gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul. And David said unto Ahimelech, And is there not here under thine hand spear or sword? For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod.
What a coincidence.
If thou wilt take that, take it, for there is no other save that here. And David said, There is none like that, give it me. And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? And David laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard.
Yep.
Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? Have I need of madmen, that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
You had to kind of sell it, you know. Sometimes you gotta, I mean, you gotta play in the part. You gotta do something. They're
1
gonna kill
Samuel
you.
22. David therefore departed thence, and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it,
Remember, we're just reading the Bible as it is. Though I may add little points and stuff, little comments here and there, I say let God's word speak for itself. So I could be wrong in what I'm saying. Some people say, I don't believe it. There's never had time to tell a fib or to not tell the truth. Because I think about these things also. I'm like, what would I do if I was in that situation? Would I say it and then risk and have somebody killed like that? There's a lot of things that happen here. So it's like, we got to see the whole Bible in context. And it's good to read Ellen G. White's account of what she says, the deeper meaning into it, in Prophets and Kings. Why did they do what it is? How could God call David a man after his own heart? Looking at his experience, what he went through. And what a coincidence that David is there. That's all I was saying. It's like, wow, what a coincidence that David goes to the place where the sword that he valiantly killed Goliath with, chopped his head off. With this same Goliath who was bad, blaspheming God and cursing God's people forever. David did it in the spirit of the Lord, you know, while under spiritual guidance from God. It's amazing as a youth. And now he comes back to him. It's like, yeah, you know, here's your strength again. So it's amazing what happened. But remember, you heard also there's also servants of Saul there from the herdmen. Somebody's going to snitch and tell. I mean, can you make any more dramatic series than these in the Bible? There's stuff here. Whoa.
they went down thither to him. And every one that was in distress, and every one that was in debt, and every one that was discontented gathered themselves unto him.
Chapter 22.
And he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. And David went thence to Mizpeh of Moab. And he said unto the king of Moab, Let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth, and be with you, till I know what God will do for me. And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. And the prophet Gad said unto David, Abide not in the hold, depart, and get thee into the land of Judah. Then David departed, and came into the forest of Hareth. When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men that were with him. Now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. Then Saul said unto his servants that stood about him, Hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds?
Bribery.
That all of you have conspired against me, and there is none that showeth me that my son hath made a league with the son of Jesse. And there is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth unto me that my son hath stirred up my servant against me, to lie in wait, as at this day.
Wow.
Then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub.
Snitch.
And he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king. And Saul said, Hear now, thou son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here I am, my lord. And Saul said unto him, Why have ye conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, in that thou hast given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait, as at this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, And who is so faithful among all thy servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thine house?
You see this? For doing a good deed, he has to now give an account, and is brought into trial by someone who's looking to destroy God's people and destroy God's chosen man. The priests and all, the religious people, the one represented, the one getting message from God, is now have to give an account also. Potentially to be martyred by a wicked king who was once supposedly on God's side, trying to do the right thing, but because of pride and other things. Some guy like Satan, right? Huh? Pride made him want to destroy God's people and God's chosen and remnant. Saul, huh? Very, very akin to Satan. Jealousy, envy. And he can say that conspired against him, like Satan accused Jesus Christ of was conspiring against him, and that God is a tyrant and all this stuff. All these names don't attribute to others. They blame others for what they themselves are doing. Is that happening today? Are we being given stories of conspiracies and stuff? Are we being told that this is this and this is something happening here and that we need to do this? Are people trying to give us propaganda here and there and tell us some things to believe and what not to believe? Wow. We will have to give an account for what we believe in. Even by those of our own brethren that were once called brethren, male and female. Here's what happened. Amazing. So David had to go into another strange land to hide himself and bring his prayers there to be safe because the king was going to kill all them. Now the king gets all the religious people who are trying to help the people. Remember during the time of the Jewish, of the Holocaust and all the time, during that time, and other events when many religious people were hiding and saving the people, even at the risk of their own lives. Many people were allowed to go about the streets and teach and to practice religion, try to save others and give a little parchment. Remember also the Waldenses? Remember those people there? They're trying to help give a word of the Lord, give a message, give a guidance from God. And they were then brought into straight places, and some of them were, put in caves and smoked to death, like asphyxiated. They were killed for doing God's work. Are we willing to die for God? Are we willing to go through such sacrifice and stress for God? Many of us say, yeah, I will. Remember Peter? Everyone will forsake you, Lord, but I won't. Are we going to be a Peter? Are we going to be a John? Are we going to be like these gentlemen here who went and burned into battle knowing that they may not return back? Murray, they may not return back. They may not return back. Was it Conrad, right? I don't remember the name. I might get it all mixed up, but they may not return back. These they tend to show them muddied up, dirtied and stuff, and war and destruction all around. Many of them did not return back. These group here, I showed you in the previous video, part 6. This is stories in Russian army making a stand. They didn't return back. Why are these stories brought in here? Because I want you guys to see this is our life. Yeah, they use bullets and guns, and bombs and stuff and smoke. Other places they use similar. Before it was bow and arrow and rocks and sticks and stuff, tanks, machinery, atomic bombs. You name it. What weapon they have now, we're using it, and we got more. There's more coming. Weather manipulation, all kind of stuff is there. So it's like we're in a war. They're surrounded by war everywhere. Yet you have God's word in the forefront. We have to keep it here in our heart. We have to be ready. War can happen anytime. It's happening right now. It's happening here. It's happening here. Where will we stand? Which side do you want to take? Follow the world and go to destruction and damnation? That the beat smite the servants because God delays his coming? Or are we going to stand with God no matter what? Are we going to finish the race? Remember, the race is not to the swift or to the strong, but him or her that can endure. These Levites, these of the priesthood, they're in the middle of the war. They didn't ask to be a part of it. They were just there. And when he asked him, why you harboring David? Why you conspired against me to help him? He didn't conspire. He fed the man. David came and asked, I was hungry. He gave him food. What's wrong with giving somebody food and drink? And you gave him a sword. He needed a sword to protect himself. And what did he answer? He said, isn't David faithful and loyal to you to help you out and think for your home? David here to fight for you. Why are you persecuting him? Made a righteous stand. That's what Saul did. What did wicked King Saul do?
Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father. For thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. And the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou, and all thy father's house.
So speaking right.
And the king said unto the footmen that stood about him, Turn, and slay the priests of the Lord.
See what God
because said. Their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord. And the king said to Doeg, Turn thou, and fall upon the priests. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priests, and slew on that day 75 persons that did wear a linen ephod.
80. Each score is 20. They killed over 85 priests and religious people just for helping God's servants and for helping to save David's life and for speaking righteously in defense of God's people. Martyrs, sacrifices, just for helping and for defending God's people and trying to feed them and save them. You ever heard about the Anne Frank stories and other stories like that? What about Sugihara? That's one of my favorites. Many people lost a lot to try to save other people. I would say if it was me in their place, would I have done the same? If it was you, would you have done the same? Would you risk all to save a few that you may not even see again? Who knows when may end up? Who knows? But you hear the story in the account after they survived. They tribute their children and their grandchildren and other generations survived because of the actions of one or two or three. How much will our actions make a difference tomorrow and so on? These people, these valiant armed forces men fighting, hopefully to win a war. Some drop bombs, shoot here, bomb here, submarines here, bomb here, depth charge. I mean, they did a lot to fight for their country. And when you go back in some countries and you say, did the country fight for them after? Was the war justified? Did they know what they were fighting for? Were their hands that manipulated these wars that they got involved in? In these battles here, these are wars were orchestrated by many different groups, and they may not have been privy to it, but they did the best they can working with the cards and the hands they were given. Many of us are born into this relationship and into this fight, and we don't know what we're fighting for sometimes, or why we have to. Why see good things happen and bad things happen? Why bad things happen to good people? We don't know why. We're born into this battle, and it's like we're just born into it, into the world, and every day, and the clock starts ticking. It said, death is coming, death is coming, death is coming. What means? Many of these people here, this one here, the final stand, these are teenagers that died young. Not even 20 years old. Trying to help to hold back the Nazis from attacking and destroying Moscow and getting there, to destroy the people. Did Russia ask for the fight? You know, how many people? I mean, you heard about it. Millions. I heard of it, 20 million on the Russian side, 20 million on the German side. Millions died in these wars. How many died in the beach of Normandy? Millions died. For what? What are we fighting for? They said to save the Jews and other things. It was to save the Jews, yes. Those were the brave and the heroic and the good things to be done then. But did they actually know what the war was about? I have to put the link in there from Walter White about revolutions, wars, and tyrants and stuff like that, to show you that these wars were orchestrated to bring about a new world order. But these people who were doing other things too, they were trying to break the barriers and break the stigma and other things. And this is the weird thing about this stuff here, and I know it's a little change and tangent for that, but many heroic things happen where people saw the strength and the fearfulness and the wonderfulness of humanity in men and women, in male and female. Women did new jobs and occupations that they didn't do before. New roles and things they didn't before. The nursing industry took off because of the role they played, the heroic role they played in the war effort and the fronts of that. You know, many people were given commendations and friendships are made, and people were saved, or others, and many lives. Many people thought they would never be friends with the person next to them of color or a person not of color were saved because of someone else helping them a hand. Many things we see people have like enemy soldiers putting guns to each other's head and says, I'll let you go. I wouldn't be surprised if there must have beautiful stories. How about although the romances, many children are born in these war things of different groups occupying different lands and stuff. Beautiful stories of those. And yet the war is raging. War still. But going back to the story here, the war is raging here, and it's going to happen again, and many people will be martyred for God, even into our time and going forward. Where shall we stand? Hopefully it can end by just carrying our brothers and sisters out, lay them in Jesus' lap and say, Lord, here, save our brother and sister. Spiritually and literally. War. These priests lost their lives for doing a good deed for God. Good priests. Many people kill God's people again, thinking they're doing God's service, as Cain slayed Abel. It's a sad, tragic story, but it's also one of victory and bravery and heroism and determination and just honesty and reverence to God despite it all. Not giving up. We gotta endure this.
And Nob, the city of the priests, smote he with the edge of the sword both men and women, children and sucklings, and oxen and asses, and sheep, with the edge of the sword.
Saul's men kill all his people.
And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped, and fled after David. And Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priests.
Imagine that.
And David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's
He
house.
feels guilty now. So sad.
Abide thou with me. Fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be in safeguard.
You see, David said, I'm going to help you no matter what still. And it's surprised I mentioned the name Edomite. That's from the descendants of Edom, from Jacob's brother.
1 Samuel 23.
Interesting.
Then they told David, saying, Behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, Go, and smite the Philistines, and save Keilah. And David's men said unto him, Behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Then David inquired of the Lord yet again. And the Lord answered him and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thine hand.
I pray one day we can all have that straight communication with God like that, where God can tell us, go and do and such and such. That would be so amazing. Could you imagine?
Me
And I
too.
prayed, I prayed in the previous video. So we praying with these Bible studies to say that, God help us and give us the insight and to strength us and understand these messages. To be able to, see, David didn't take presumptions upon himself, but he asked, inquired of God, should I go? Should I do? We should take lessons from that. And God says, go. And he said, but he will be exposed. They'll know we're in a bit of a battle. Even while trying to save his own life, he had a battle to save other people's lives. Any similarities? Fearing to die, knowing that we're outnumbered, but still gonna go. If God is there with you, if God is there with us, the battle is won. That's what God does.
So David and his men went to Keilah, and fought with the Philistines, and brought away their cattle, and smote them with a great slaughter.
It's fine.
So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to pass, when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. And it was told to Saul that David was come to Keilah, and Saul said, God hath delivered him into mine hand, for he is shut in by entering into a town that hath gates and bars. And Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah, to besiege David and his men. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And he said to Abiathar the priest, Bring hither the ephod. Then said David, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant hath certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah, to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Saul come down as thy servant hath heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, He will come down.
Wow.
Then said David, Will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, They will deliver thee up. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose, and departed out of Keilah, and went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbare to go forth.
David inquired of the ephod. Ephod is like a nice, it's like a unit they used to wear, the priests wore, that it's like the Lord would answer them by different stones on them, and he would light up at different times. It's a beautiful story. It's a way of communicating with God, because remember, no one can watch God and talk directly like that. But David was talking to the high priest to bring the ephod. The ephod is a way of God answering them, yes or no. And it's like, not no Ouija board, not no Ubi Mal, not no witchcraft or Wicca, none of that stuff there. But it's like, you needed an answer to know what it is, and God gave answers. Yes, they would deliver you. Yes, they would give you up. Yes, Saul would come down. And David managed to escape. God gives guidance at the right time. So how come he answered? How come the whole story is not revealed until God said exactly what's going to happen in the end? God has his way of doing things, and we just have to kind of be patient and watch and see, Lord, how shall it be? We don't know how and when, but we know the events will happen in the end. How that we have to make a stand for God. You just have to say, today is the appointed time and hour. If you hear his voice, harden not your heart. If I hear it, I have not to harden up my heart. Will I make a stand for God now, despite everything? I mean, and other people have been exposed and could be at risk. Yet, we have to make a stand on each person, humanity. Some tough decisions we made here. This is not easy.
And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds,
Chapter 23, verse 14.
and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand. And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life. And David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose, and went to David into the wood, and strengthened his hand in God. And he said unto him, Fear not, but the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel. And I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth. And they two made a covenant before the Lord. And David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house.
That's love.
Then came up the Ziphites to Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the wood, in the hill of Hachilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand.
They have taken sides.
And Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me.
Compassion?
Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see his place where his haunt is, and who hath seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly. See therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself.
Plain victim.
And come ye again to me with the certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. And they arose, and went to Ziph before Saul. But David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. Saul also and his men went to seek him, and they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock, and abode in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. And Saul went on this side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain. And David made haste to get away for fear of Saul. For Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. But there came a messenger unto Saul, saying, Haste thee, and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land.
God always makes a way.
Wherefore Saul returned from pursuing after David, and went against the Philistines. Therefore they called that place Selah Hamalekoth. And David went up from thence, and dwelt in strongholds at En-gedi.
Just when you thought he was caught, he was like, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. God says, nope, thwarted. I got something else. Something else. God always has plans for it. Amazing.
1 Samuel 24. And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave. And Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose, and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily.
Imagine.
And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt.
He felt bad. He's like, he pretty much, he has Saul. He can kill Saul. He can take him and wrap it up. It's like, yeah, wrap it up.
Is he
take him
also
out.
angry with Saul?
He's angry with Saul too. Most likely he's probably angry. He's like, why is this man trying to pursue me and kill me? I did nothing to him. He's there, and he's like, but at the same time, he has respect so much, because he answers when his men said, do it. And he said, no, I shouldn't. This, the Lord's anointed. No. And I kept saying, he would actually say, no. Despite Saul trying to kill him, he still had respect to say, no. The Lord will give me the throne when it's the right time. I'm not going to do anything to try to force God's hand and do it. God didn't tell him to go and smite Saul. God told him to go and defend the places he defended and everything. But he didn't say to go smite Saul. God could strike Saul down anytime. But we have to see the story of Saul play out. So it's interesting when God intervenes, when he doesn't, or when God says do and don't do, and then it's like how David does, and his conscience is telling no, if I did this, it's like it's still like, it's like, I feel bad, my conscience pricking me. I shouldn't do that. I mean, I can get him, but I'm like, I just take a little bit. I'm like, you wanted to get him, but it's like, no, just show him. But he wanted to show them, look, I cut off your piece of your skirt, your uniform. I took it off. I could have taken your whole life when you couldn't know. It's privily. It's like secretly. You still don't see how much I can harm you? But David, even though he had the capacity to, he still said, I'm going to hold back and let God's work go forward on his own. Very interesting how David operated. Very interesting. This is 1 Samuel chapter 24. Going into, I think, verse 5. Going to verse 4 now. To 5. Let's hear. King James Version.
And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul.
He said, don't kill him.
But Saul rose up out of the cave, and went on his way. David also rose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Saul, saying, My lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth, and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord had delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave, and some bade me kill thee. But mine eyes spared thee, and I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe, and killed thee not. Know thou, and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand. And I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice, and wept.
It's like he's battling.
And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast shown this day how that thou hast dealt well with me, forasmuch as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killedst me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware unto Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men gat them up unto the hold.
Wow. That's like, imagine, it's almost like saying, okay, we got like a little peace treaty, a little peace for a moment. Let's end the war for a moment. I mean, David could have killed him. Saul rightly knows that. He's a man of war himself. And he said, you showed me mercy and kindness when you deserve judgment and justice. It would have been justified. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. David wouldn't do it. He wouldn't touch God's anointed. And his mercy showed towards Saul.
So why Saul didn't kill him?
Well, Saul is like, you see, the spirit that seems like the spirit that takes Saul, that messes with him, is like, just it's just like he cannot but acknowledge that God is more powerful, more superior than him. He said like, wow, I think I'm so I can do what I want, but really my life can be taken from me too. I think every now and then you see glimpses of his humanity trying to reach out to God and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He sees that, he acknowledges. Remember, God says, as I live, you know, every tongue shall confess, every knee shall bow that God is Lord. He can't help but prophesy that God is going to win this. God has chosen a better person than him. God is going to make him king. He sees that he's only been for this, he's only living for destruction. He's looking at his life and saying, everything I've done has just been one step down and down, more into the grave and wicked and bad. I'm so departed from God. I've started off such a place, and look where I end up. You are a better man than me, David. You've done so much. And I'm like, and you see one go down and you see one rising up at the same time. And it's like, what a story. What a story. God is amazing. We shall end it at the end of this chapter. This is chapter 24, and we shall pick up later on with the death of Samuel and what David does after. And there's other wonderful stories there, but I don't want to overwhelm you too much. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a couple more chapters. I can finish it. And you want to try to do that? I'll put it for the next video. Let this one go forward and finish. Let's see what we can do with Samuel. I want to get this chapter finished so we can move to the next thing. So let's try this. So we'll end it here for now. God bless you guys. This is part 7 that's just completed. And let's see. A better man. God is amazing. Really amazing. Yeah, God bless you.